July 20th, and hopefully not, but 21st, Board of County Commission Budget Workshop Meeting. If we could all stand for a moment of silence and remain standing for the pledge.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I have no public comment forms. If there's anybody in the room that would like to, and Mr. Merker, do we have any Zoomers? No, okay. With that, Commissioner comments, Commissioner Smith? All set. Commissioner Hetherington?
All set.
Commissioner, I don't have any. Commissioner Campy? All set. Commissioner Hurd?
Nothing from me.
All right, we're moving right through. County Administrator, you have any comments?
No, sir.
Okay, if not, we'll work right into the Work -2, Board of County Commission Fiscal Year 2020-2021 Budget Workshop Meeting. Ms. Kristoff.
Yes, sir. So I am very pleased to present to you this FY21 tentative budget. This budget is a working document for you, the Board of County Commissioners. It is a recommendation that staff has diligently deliberated over and has been very methodical in our approach to have this be a balanced budget. Being mindful of the current pandemic and our restrictions, we will limit our formal presentations to just the departments that you have here in Martin County. Ms. Manning will do an overview of the total budget and discuss revenues and collection status year to date. We will present the constitutional officers' budgets, so if you have any specific questions for them on their budgets, I will submit those to them formally via memorandum and ask them to provide answers to you. I will then forward that information to all of you. At the conclusion of this workshop, we will be establishing the FY21 tentative millage rate, which can further be reduced at your first budget public hearing in September. The total millage rate is remaining the same at what you adopted for FY20. There is a slight increase, just a tad over 1%, in the millage for countywide ad valorem funds, which is in mostly the general fund, where a majority of these requests for additional ad valorem were made. The combined millage for the municipal service taxing units, or MSTUs, has been reduced just under 2%, due to the taxable values for those MSTUs increased 10% more than the countywide tax base. Each department has a brief presentation that they will be providing to you. We've provided you hard copies of those as well. And now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Manning to start her overview.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jennifer Manning, OMB Director. Welcome to the FY 2021.
Jennifer, pull the
Manning,
mic
can you pull
closer
the
to
mic?
you.
Yes.
The mic.
Oh, sorry. Okay. This presentation will have an overview of the revenues. It'll talk about the tentative budget revenues and expenditures. They'll have the tax analysis, the budget impact as of July 1st, the budget development summary, and prior year impact, and the basis for our recommendation. The first slide, set of slides will be the major revenues. And first I will start with the local revenues. And these are revenues that are budgeted for FY20, and the numbers are year to date based on the number of months collected. So for example, we have the local revenues, which includes the ad valorem, impact fees, and several other revenue sources. Right now, with the exception of Sailfish Splash, we are seeing we're exceeding our revenue projections for FY20, and that's mainly because the COVID did not, for ad valorem especially, the COVID began in March, to impact Martin County, and our line share is collected by March. And so we're not seeing any kind of impact on our tax base this year. I do, however, believe we will be impacted next year, depending on how our economy goes with the COVID. Our impact fees, of course, is just based on development, and we have changed the way we collect our impact fees. So it's very hard to project our impact fees. And the lion's share of that impact fee is coming from the city of Stuart. The building permit fees, for example, it's 1% under what the collection for the 9-month period, but we anticipate that we will collect the full amount by the end of the year. So we're not being impacted heavily by the code on that also. Ambulance fee revenues is above projected. The tourist development, it looks, it's where it should be, a little bit above where it should be, but of course those collections were prior to the major impact on COVID. So we do anticipate that our collection will be about 93% of our projected revenues, but we'll just have to watch and see. Development review, as well, is not seeing any major impact from COVID. The franchise fees, you'll notice that it is at 84%, which is great, and that's mainly because individuals are staying at home, teleworking, and so forth. So we're seeing more usage, and of course, it's impacted. Selfish Splash was closed, and I don't know the status right now. We know we will never, I shouldn't say never, we will not collect the projected revenue. So we are planning accordingly to, lower our expenses to match. It won't match, but we'll lower our expenses. The interest rate, we're getting a lot of interest in now, but because those are for investments that are going to expire in the future, and as they expire, we'll see a downturn in our interest rate because, as you know, we have lowered all different rates. And these are just a history of our collection for ad valorem, and of course, any FY20 collection is year to date, and our impact fees. So this is just for, viewing. On the FP&L franchise, when you're looking at it, it looks like there's a downturn in June. So we just want to recognize that there was a 25% discount that was given in May, and that's reflected in June's amount. So you'll see the trend going back up. Our state revenues include this communication service tax, revenue sharing, half-cent sales tax, and fuel taxes. Communication service tax has been going down slightly every year, and that's because of usage of our wireless. And then our revenue sharing, the state projects all these revenues, and they are concerned about projecting too early based on COVID, how we're going to be impacted. So fortunately for us, we do conservative projections. So we are going to be impacted for FY20, but not significantly. If we had projected what the state had suggested, we would probably look at about $2.5 million impact. We may be looking at for half-cent sales tax. And revenue sharing, we'll look at a slight decrease. But for half-cent sales tax, we would have been looking at probably about $2.5 million loss. So right now, my projection is probably about $1 million, but it's too soon to tell because even the state has not done their projections for FY21 yet. And they are reluctant to do projections for the current year because it's uncertain. Same thing with fuel tax. And again, these are just graphic projections of the collections over a few years. Our enterprise funds, we have the water, sewer, and garbage collections, which is related to the utilities and solid waste operations. They're not being impacted at this time, and their collections are, as you can see, above projections. The golf course has, similar to Sailfish Splash, has been impacted by COVID, and at this time they're also renovating, and the golf course is closed. So we're seeing where we're not collecting as much revenues, but we are mindful of the expenditures as well. And again, these are just graphs of the annual collections. So of course, why are we here? We are here because the county administrator has the powers to provide to the Board of Commissioners a budget, balanced budget, operating capital and capital program. The FY21 tentative budget will work throughout the year. work throughout the week, and the board will welcome any changes that the board requires, and we're hoping that the budget workshop will be completed today. Okay, the sources of revenues for the budget. First of all, I want to say the total budget being submitted to the commissioners is $491,610,013. And that's the total revenues. And those revenues consist of local sales and use tax, which is $9 million or 2%. Ad valorem for the general fund, which is $127.5 million. And we have the state shared revenue, which represents $22.2 million. The grants is a small amount, $1.3 million, because we do not budget grants until we actually have them in place. So during the year, we come back to the board and ask for the budgets to be established. We have fund balance, which is $65 million or 13%. And we have a small amount for assessments and impact fees. And as I mentioned earlier, the impact fees are very lowly projected only because of the way the changes in collection of those impact fees.
Jennifer, is it possible in the future to pull out and have its own slice, the tangible personal property?
Tangible personal property? I don't
TPP?
know. I'm not sure if we can.
Well, it's part of the tax base.
Yeah.
We could get that number
Yeah,
and
because it's-
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, we can do that.
I think it would be helpful for us moving into the future to track that on an ongoing basis, just to kind of know where we are. We've had some big hits to that, and it would be kind of nice to know how big a hit that was, and
Yeah, I'll ask the property appraiser to give us that number.
yeah, thanks.
Okay, and the franchise fees is $9.1 million. The miscellaneous revenue represents $6.9 million. Our total expenditures, of course, is a balanced budget, so it's still $491 million. And it includes our personal expenses, which is 98% of your total. Operating expenses, it's 98.22 million of your total. And your operating expenses is $144 million. Your capital is $47 million. Your debt service is $22 million. Your constitutional officers is $88.04 million. And then you have your budgeted transfers and reserves is $91 million. So as we look at our budget development, we, on May 19th, the board tentatively approved the CIP budget. We looked at also the revenues that impacted for FY20, so we adjusted accordingly for the FY21. The certified values represents a 5.27% increase in the taxable value for countywide. Overall, we generated approximately $11.4 million. This chart is the final taxable values of all the taxing authorities, and I won't go through every one of them, but I just take a moment out to point out again that the general fund is 5.27%. I will go down to the fire MSTU, which is 5.53. You have the parks, roads, and stormwater is 5.83 increase. So as we look at our budget, the tentative budget millage rate is based on July 1st, 2020 taxable values. We are still looking at the revenues, as I mentioned, due to the impact of COVID. And like I said, the state is closely monitoring those revenues. They do believe that there is going to be a significant impact. They will not provide their estimates until anytime between today and the 24th of this month. We also thought about funding the constitutional officers, which we did. The departments were required to maintain the same level of service. However, if there are impacts such as contract increases and stuff and other operational increases that are unavoidable to maintain the level of service, that is included in the budget. there are 12 and a half FTEs requested in FY21. 8 of those positions are from the utilities department, and of those 8, the utilities have 3 conversion employees, and there's another conversion within the other funds. And those are mainly because of, because of maintaining level of service or increased workload, or like I mentioned earlier, conversion from the funding is there, we're not increasing the funding, but we're just converting them to full-time employees because of the need. And we deferred some of our capital projects that was tentatively approved in May. Overall, I mentioned we had 11.3 million increase. Of that, the lion's share, of course, is the countywide, which is 79.7%. And in the next few slides, we'll go into detail of what that represents. The fire, parks, and stormwater MSTU is 7.2%, and District 4 was 3.1%. And it looks high, but it's just because it was just being reinstated for this budget. The board approved this CIP sheet. We made adjustments accordingly, and overall, you can see the increases and decreases within the capital program, and it's roughly $2 million. And those projects are deferred, but the CIP sheets remain in the budget. And we will wait until
So does this mean that since the CIP was adopted in May of 2020, the $2 million in decreases were made in this budget?
yes.
And how were those selected?
The decreases were made, we went through each CIP sheet and deferred some of those projects, and the result is a $1.9 million decrease. And you'll see on the next slide how that has helped the tax from going up.
I remember we discussed this before, but the roads, the million decrease,
Yes.
was that because there were some collaboration and projects shared with drainage?
No,
Or
with the road decrease, because our franchise fees showed sufficient increase, so it's just a swap. We just lowered the ad valorem portion and replaced that with franchise fees.
Okay, it wasn't because a
Yes,
significant
so we didn't-
project dropped
yes.
it? Okay, I remember now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So as we look at the increases countywide, and that includes our capital, all the countywide ad valorem impacts, we're looking at the constitutional officers that requested approximately $3.5 million worth of increases. And we have the septic to sewer program that we committed $1 million. We are still replenishing reserve. This will bring our reserve to where we need it to be, that 10% requirement. We have revenue impact. And this is just the best guess that we may see 800 overall by the time we get done with collections in 2021. We have our labor obligations, that's $637,000. Our property insurance has increased, and we also have to fund our CRA city and county. The tangible personal property, that has also increased based on increase, the value, they put more
Inventory.
storage in. Yeah. And then the debt service we approved this year. We have the general service and maintaining level of service. And then we have health insurance increases both on the employee side and the employer side. And we have unfunded mandate, which is the FRS actuarial liability. The golf course is only requiring, estimated $89,000 for next year. So overall, when we look at decreasing, it would have been 11 million, but we use that shift, if you will, to help to offset the impact of countywide. And this is an old slide, sorry. I thought this was changed. Oh. Okay, so I have to replace this slide because this was at the time when I was working, it was a working document, so this should reflect $9 million. Okay, so as far as the MSTUs, the increases is approximately $2.3 million. You have fire rescue, SAFER grant, which requires a $421,000 match. We have a fire rescue debt service that we approved this year. We also have medical supplies and maintaining current level of service of $336,000. District MSTU is, I just want to point out that prior to discussion with the Commissioner Hurd on Friday, we had to do our best guess and requested $350,000 in district funds. And we will be adjusting that to $200,000 because that is a need, as of our conversation on Friday. And okay, so we have the health insurance also that you'll see $250,000 on the MSU end, unfunded liabilities. We have water monitoring, $100,000. We have stormwater equipment, and then we have the CRA obligations.
And Jennifer, just for information, the chart in what we distributed is correct.
That's correct, yeah.
Yeah, it has the 9 million.
Somehow I got confused.
That's
yeah.
okay.
Thank you. And this is just ad valorem broken out by operations. This is a historical chart of ad valorem since 2009. And of course, I know it's increasing, but we also have increased level of service, increased requests, and it's depicted here. And as I spoke about the FRS unfunded liability, you can see the chart, which it depicts all the rates. And the next chart will show you the increase just for FY21. So as far as regular employees, it's 18% increase. Fire rescue recognized a small decrease of 4%. There's a 1% increase for elected officials. Seniors, 7%. And the drop program is 16% increase. So that's where you're seeing the reflected increases on the charts prior. And this is just an example of what $1 of the tax dollars will go to. So the constitutional officer represents 43 cents, 22 cents for the fire rescue, 20 cents for other operations. The capital is 11 cents, and our health and medical is 4 cents. I mentioned earlier that we were replenishing reserves, and that was because it was impacted by Matthew and Irma over the last few years. And right now we are at the required 10%, which is about $15.6 million. And we do establish similar reserves when possible in other funds. As far as the building and utilities and solid waste funds, building has to maintain up to 1 year of operating, and solid waste has to maintain at least 3 months of operating. This chart just has a roll-up of all the reserves within the total budget, and that also includes salaries. So overall, in summary, the proposed budget includes funding the constitutional officers. If there were to be any reductions, it would have to go to the state for the sheriff. We talked about a previously tentatively approved capital improvement plan. We have investment in our employees. We are funding our health, property, and impact CRAs. We're also funding our debt obligations, and we're maintaining a level of service for various departments. For future consideration, the COVID impact for year 22, we have to think about the taxable values. I mentioned that I feel like they will be impacted based on what's going on right now, but none of us have a crystal ball, so unfortunately we can't even start projecting. And what type of revenue shortfalls we'll have. Maybe we won't have any, or maybe it'll be within the range that I propose. Also, the other challenge might be the stormwater MSTU. That might be a discussion that the board might want to entertain especially based on what's happening right now. So that's it. So with that, I'm open to questions.
Yeah, I'm just going to go through the overview with some questions and also questions based upon your presentation. For sales taxes, for gas taxes, for impact fees, for state shared revenues, these are revenues that we expect to be diminished
Yeah.
in 2021. So what did you use as a basis for collections? What percentage did you use?
Well, I just look at what, like I said, we have a conservative projection. So for example, for the state for FY20, they projected.
What did you do for
almost-
2021?
I know, but I'm just trying to get there.
Jennifer.
I'm saying for FY20, when I look,
Get into-
sorry, for FY20, when you look at what they projected, I projected 1.6 million less than they did. So that saved me from being 2 million impacted. So going in 21, I assumed that we might be about $1.2 million.
That's roughly about 20%.
Yes. And then for state share revenue, I projected maybe about 700,000 than what we projected in 20. As far as gas tax, same thing, probably about 20% in gas tax, because, like I said, there's no way, we're not out of the woods yet, and I don't know, what to project, so we're being very cautious. And even though that's in the 21 budget, we will be monitoring all our revenues to make sure we are in line with the collection. And especially since the state revenues are 2 months in arrears, so we have to wait until we get those numbers, because we are only at collections for April at this point. So we have quite a few months remaining.
Okay. Let's see. I'm on page 5 of the overview, and it says that there are union contract salary adjustments, $1.6 million. Whose union does that include?
Okay, we have Teamsters, and then you have the non-bargaining that's included, that it's a Me Too clause. So that's mainly the union, the Teamsters.
How about fire rescue and also the sheriff?
Yeah, the fire, we do not have, the fire rescue, we have funds set aside in reserve of about $1.5 million. As far as the sheriff, we do not know what their reserve is for their contracts. I think they're still negotiating at this time, I'm not sure. But yeah, we don't
No,
have a
they're-
number
they
for
actually are in their second, or the first year, no, their second, they'll be going into their second year of their contract. They have a 3-year contract. And those are within his request. We don't break those
I'm more
out.
concerned about the fire rescue contract, which is going to be entering year 1, presumably in October 1, and it's a 3-year contract, and includes, so what additional number did you include in the fire rescue contract beginning October 1? How much additional money did you add?
I placed $1.5 million in reserve for fire rescue. Not additional, but that's just what we projected.
That's what we had in for this year as well, roughly.
Yes.
And how much additional did you put in the sheriff's budget?
The sheriff initially requested just a little bit over $3 million in his budget, and we have increased another $300,000 to that request in anticipation of moving forward.
The county's community redevelopment areas and the CRA for the city of Stewart will require an increased level of funding estimated to be a total of $800,000.
Between the two. So countywide is about 527. The CRA, I think it's like 180,000, yeah. The city.
City of
Not-
Stewart, right
yeah.
now, the city of Stewart's over $800,000 that goes into their TIF, that into their CRA.
Yeah, it's
And we
between the two.
anticipate that increasing a couple $100,000. And that's based on their tax base plus our millage rates.
Okay, I'm on page, in the overview on page 7, and I'm looking at debt service. And debt service, it says, is $10,627,000, but in the non-departmental debt service on page 277, says debt service is $22,720,000.
Yeah,
So-
that's because it's covering all the debt service. The one that you're looking here, it's for new debt service. So overall, that's all the county debt that we have, that's also listed in the front part of the book, the budget book, that lists all the debt service.
But that's less than half of what it's listed in non-departmental.
Yes.
It's $10 million versus $22 million. $22 million appears to be the correct figure, so I'm just wondering why this figure is in this tentative budget in the summary.
Because, okay, you're saying 22 in the non-departmental.
Yep.
Yes, because some debt service goes directly, monies are transferred in. It all depends on when you're looking at it. And I'd have to look at my debt service schedule. But you'll see more in non-departmental because you have transfers going to the debt service funds, and they're all under a certain debt service account. And that's why you're seeing all the transfers going into those. So I would have to, I had to give you, there's a breakdown there.
Okay.
But remember, they're in different areas. So in the general fund, you'll have it, a transfer, then you'll have one paying directly from the general fund in the debt service line. So, it's hard you won't have it one place. It's not in one spot.
Well, we do have a debt service section.
Yes, we do.
I was looking for that, and that breaks out all of the debt service and tells you exactly what those
'cause we
payments
have
are
about-
for.
yeah.
It's on page 43 in the financial summary. So it shows you the source of revenues as well. A lot of your debt service, more than half of your debt service is utilities, which we have initiated, we've refunded some of their debt.
15 and yes.
And it shows you when the debt was issued, the amount that was issued, when it's going to come mature, and what's outstanding currently.
Yeah, and it's very hard to nail it down to just non-departmental because it's in different areas of the budget.
Okay, well, I'll have to examine that further.
Sure.
Once again, and I'm now in the summary on page 10, again, the decrease in capital projects, who determines that it's a $2 million reduction? Who makes the determination about what capital projects are being slashed?
They weren't being slashed, Commissioner. When we did our CIP and we brought that to you, Mr. Donaldson and the team, Mr. Zarma, identified some projects that could be deferred, and so they were pushed out. A year, they were able to be pushed out without impacting the schedules of other projects, and they felt very comfortable in making that recommendation. If our revenues come back and we don't have the reduction that we're anticipating, then we'll be coming back to you and asking to continue those projects and bring them forward. But they were deferred.
Okay, these are some other utilities, capital improvement projects that were budgeted in FY20. They include Golden Gate Septic to Sewer, $9.6 million, Evergreen Windstone Water, $3.8 million, Beau Rivage Water, $2.5 million, Dixie and Cove Force Main, $5.9 million. Those are all being subtracted from the project list. Who
Yeah,
makes the
because-
determination about which projects are being deferred?
They're
No,
not
they're not being sorry.
Yeah, they're not being subtracted. They were budgeted, they've been moving forward, and now we're able to not include them in the budget for FY21 because they've already been moving forward.
Okay. So once again, going back to the debt service, on page 57, under fiscal policy, the debt service expenditures restrict the amount of funds available for other uses. The county will monitor the debt levels, ensure that the ratio of debt service to the total operating budget does not exceed 10%. According to the presentation this morning, the operating budget is $144 million. So that means that the debt service can be no more than 10% of that. And once again, I have this question about the dueling numbers about the debt service being in one place $10 million and in another place, two other places, $22 million, which is far more than 10% of 144. So help me through understanding how we're in compliance with our fiscal policy.
Well, I don't think you can look at it that way because when you look at for utilities, I mean, they have a lion's share of debt service. I don't have the book in front of me right now, but
Are they part of our operating
they're
budget?
part of our operating, but when they're borrowing money, they're looking at their revenues that they get in from fees. And they're based in it, and they do analysis on the capacity, our debt service levels, the percentage that we can stay within, and we are within those percentages. We're audited on many occasions, just like when we go for bank loans. They look at that, they look at our fiscal policy and make sure we're in compliance with our policy. So I don't think it exceeds, I'm pretty sure it does not exceed our requirements because we're obligated to make sure.
Well, we are. If our debt service is $22 million, then we are exceeding our debt service.
They're looking at overall revenues. I don't think I'd have to come back to you with that information. I will check with the clerk because they also monitor that, so.
Well, part of our operating, part of that expense that's not showing in operating, when you just look at the operating, is the replacement renewal. We carry a lot of those funds in reserves, and particularly for utilities, because we have to keep our utility system properly maintained. So you would have to look at those as well and pull those into your operating number. You just can't, it's not as easy to just pull that operating total out of the budget like that. There are other elements that we have in reserves that also would be deemed operational.
So I will bring back whatever I can to, at a later date about the debt service.
I'm on page 70. New positions will be requested only when there is a change in service level relative to a board strategic objective or comp plan mandated level of service. There are new positions. Have they met this requirement?
Yes, it's been vetted by our county administrator. Like I said, the lion's share was for utilities and solid waste, the need for those positions, the conversion of three of those positions, and the need for additional positions. And of course, with the septic to sewer program that is coming on board, they need more individuals. to
Yeah, that's
monitor
one of those
managers
positions.
and so forth.
Yeah. And the other ones, like Ms. Manning was saying earlier, 3 of the positions in utilities were contracted services that are being converted over, those long-term contracts, as well as another contracted service position. It's not an enhanced level of service other than the stormwater, or not stormwater, excuse me, septic to sewer. That is consuming a lot more resources. You also looked, when you were identifying like Windstone and Evergreen, those assessments, those are taking a lot of staff time as well. So in order to do those water and sewer conversion assessments, we just needed the extra staff rather than contracting it out.
I'm on page 71 of fiscal policy. Road, landscaping, and other maintenance activities for projects completed by the community redevelopment area will be funded in the same manner as for other county assets. Road maintenance, MSTU, gas tax funds, or other sources appropriate for the specific type of assets. Why not TIF?
I don't think under their ordinance that they can do that. They cannot do maintenance of those facilities once they're completed. And I think we vetted that a couple of years ago, and as far as maintenance is concerned, it is the county's responsibility. So we appropriately fund it that way.
Those are the questions I have for now.
Any other questions for Ms. Fennell? No?
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to constitutional officers. And as Ms. Crisler mentioned, that we're just going to talk about the current budget and the requested budget. And as you can see, the clerk of the court requested an additional $118,000.
It's hard to hear you,
Ms. Manning,
Jennifer.
can you drag that
Oh, yeah,
closer to
sorry.
you?
It's- yeah, it's kinda
Pull the whole thing to you, yeah.
Oh, pull it forward. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right, so the clerk of the court and comptroller, she requested an additional $118,000 in her budget, and that includes salaries and all the other relative increases. The property appraiser went down slightly by $9,000. The sheriff requested additional $3.3 million, and that includes his salary increases for his contracts. The sheriff non-departmental went down slightly. The tax collector, I just want to note that the tax collector only requested about $107 in increases, but because we have to pay for fees, the collection fees for animal control and so forth, we have to increase our budget a little more. So overall, she did not request more than $107,000. Supervisor of election, a slight increase of $5,000, and we have the state judicial that requested a slight increase as well. So we're going to move on to our first Department of Administration. The total budget is $10.9 million. The difference from the previous year is very small, about $87,000. There are no new employees being requested. There's no notable items for increase or decrease. Move on from there. And then we break it out to the administration division as a whole. It's $1.2 million. It's 37 increase over last year. That's 8 FTEs. OMB, Office of Management and Budget, is $1 million, and the difference is $43,000. We have 11 FTEs. The commission has $965,000, difference of $35,000, and they have 10 FTEs. So there's no changes in FTEs in those programs. Then we have Human Resources and Risk Management, has a budget of $962,000 with 10 FTEs and a difference of $58,000. We have Purchasing Division, which is $315,000 roughly. They have a decrease of $11,000. Then we have the Communications Division, that's $551,000, and they requested $9,000 additionally, and they have 5.75 employees. Human Services Division, which includes community service, veteran services, social services, so substance abuse treatment, and you have medical services and housing. That budget is $4.5 million. They have a decrease of $81,000, and the decrease is due to the removal of grant salaries that will be brought forward in the fiscal year 21. The Legislative Division is $118,000, just a slight increase of $3,000. 3,800, and you have 1 FTE. Office of Tourism, the budget is $1.2 million. The difference is a negative $182,000. They have 3.25 employees, and that quarter goes with it. Here it is. The notable change, the FY reflects a decrease in the projected bed tax. As I mentioned earlier, that we will see some kind of decrease. And the 0.25 FT is part of the communications. Will be reallocated. The Office of Community Development, their budget is operated, their administrative budget is $536,575. They increased by $55,000. Notable items for increase was none, and they have 5 employees.
Commissioners, so this is just kind of an overview. We do have staff here if you should have any questions specific to administration. I also would ask that, given on the constitutional officers budget, if you have any questions specific for that, if you'd let me know. Otherwise, I would look for a tentative approval for the constitutional officers and each department as we move forward.
Commissioner Campy.
Chair, barring any questions from the constitutionals and their budgets that they've presented, I make a motion to approve their tentative budget request
Thank you.
for the constitutionals.
Okay.
That's not 1.5, that's the second.
Okay. All right, any other comments to that? We have a motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
So do you want to go back through each department and do them tentatively, or do you want to do them as a group?
No, you can do administration. We're at the end of the administration. If you don't, I mean, like I said, I have staff here if you should have any specific questions for administration. Otherwise, we can move then to the next department, which would be growth management.
So I'd move tentative approval of administration.
Second.
Any other comments? We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to growth management. Growth management budget is $2.5 million. They increased $23,000. There are 28 FTEs. Notable item for increase or decrease in 21 are noted on each division unless it has an increase in salaries and benefits. So just want to point that out, or health insurance.
Well, you want
Sorry.
to approve each one of these as we go?
I can't,
Really? Do you want to approve each one of these as we go?
when we get done, or, I mean, what we have, each department has their divisions broken down, so what Ms. Manning is doing is, the first slide is an overview with the total budget for the department and their total positions. And then each division has their own slide, if you will, as well. So if you're comfortable and you see there's no change necessarily in the department, you can approve it at this point, or you can wait until we get through all the divisions.
I'll wait.
Do you want to go through all? Okay. All right, so the Administration Division of Growth Management, the budget is $419,000, a decrease of $32,000. No notable increase otherwise. You have the Comprehensive Planning Division, $708,000 roughly, an increase of $168,000, and that's mainly because of moving the salary increase due to reallocation of FTEs. So, and we'll redistribute them again next year because it depends on where we need those employees. The Development Review is $897,000, a decrease of $133,000. Like I said, it's a moving around of the employees. Environmental is $500,000, an increase of $20,000. That's mainly probably salaries.
That's the last one.
And that's the last slide.
Now would you like a motion?
Yeah.
I move tentative approval of growth management.
Second.
Okay, excuse me, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Okay, the airport overview is 1.8 million roughly, an increase of 107,000. The notable increase is it's going to be among the departments. So the first one is administration, which is $758,000, an increase of $28,000. No notable increase. The airport operations is $731,000, a decrease of $1,000. No notable increase. The customs is $290,000. It adds $80,000, and it's the cost of contracting customer inspections. Oop. And that is for airports. So,
I move tentative approval of the airport.
And what are the funding sources for the airport?
Fuel flowage and rent, and then what they receive from customs. It's all considered enterprise fund. There's no general fund monies going into the airport fund.
But there's rent. coming from general fund, is there not?
But it's from
The-
property, it's
No,
your property.
excuse me,
so-
field ops.
Yeah.
And, yeah, they pay rent for being on airport property. It's from gas tax primarily is where that comes from. Some of the the fleet maintenance, that's part of the enterprise fund, if you will, but it's, that we are required to pay that by FAA. The county can't be located on airport property without paying rent.
I understand that. I just wanted to make it clear that it's not just fuel flowage that generates all the revenues. There are tax dollars going into the airport fund.
It's rent, yes, through rent, yes.
Well, if I might, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I don't disagree with what Commissioner Hurd is saying, but if that property was not being used by maintenance at the county, the airport enterprise would have the ability to rent it to someone else and make
Yes.
money on it as well. So we can't locate one of our departments on airport property for free. So if we weren't there, someone else would be. Also, can we get an update on customs and how it's doing?
Yes, Mr. Carver's here, he can provide that to you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Sam Carver, Airport Manager. Customs is doing well. For the first year, we were in the black for the first calendar year. We collected $340,000 in revenue and fees. This year, of course, with the hurricane and pandemic, it's not doing as well, but as of this month, we have reached our revenue goals for this fiscal year.
Thank you very much.
Did I move this or not?
I don't know.
Yes, you did, yes.
Oh, okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting. Building.
Our next department is Building Department. The total budget is $5.5 million roughly, and the difference is $238,000, and it's a 5% increase. There's the notable change of salary and health insurance, and it'll be noted on each department. So as far as the administrative portion of Building Department, it's $1.3 million, an increase of $35, no significant changes there. We have permitting and inspections are requesting $88,000, an increase in plan examiners' hours, that is for the increase, they have 30 employees. Licensing is $121,000, an increase of $5,000, and that's probably salaries. Then we have code enforcement, which is $951,000, an increase of $110,000, and that's for transferring vehicles from permitted and licensing divisions. And that should be it.
Yep.
Any questions?
Move approval?
Second.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. I don't know if there's somebody here to answer.
Yes, there is.
But I'm on page 129, under the licensing performance measures, and consumer complaint resolution, 10 are projected, license applications, 100 are projected, revenue variance, 100, licensure due to citations is 2%. Are those, do you stand by those figures? I mean, you resolved 10 complaints a year? And 2% of the complaints result in,
Normally, licensing complaints are limited to written complaints. We only get maybe 10 to 12 a year.
They got 14 last year.
okay?
There was an increase this past year, and this year we've seen an increase from previous years.
Sir, could you state your name for the record, too, please?
Yes, Scott, what's your name?
Andrew Brune, the assistant building official. Apologize, I'm not dressed for this. I wasn't expecting to be here.
It looked perfect.
And also,
Thanks, sir.
on page 131, citations issued, this is on code enforcement, citations issued for total inspections, 2%?
Yes, ma'am, if you look at the year before, the actual was 1.33%. So I think the 2% is, it's a target, if you will.
So does that mean that compliance is 98%?
That'd be correct. Most of we have the officers do drive-bys, so they'll run through a neighborhood, look for vehicles, grass, signage, whatever. And at that point, they'll start a case, but they may not have to go very far because compliance will be met very shortly. Usually when someone gets a yellow tag on their door, they comply pretty quick.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Did somebody make a motion? Okay. And it was seconded by? Oh, okay.
Who would you like?
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington. Closer to her. Seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
The next department is the county attorney. Their budget is $1.3 million. An increase of $65,000 is being requested. There's no notable change.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay, any questions?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't think that's for that.
Commissioner Hurd.
Do you have a question?
No, I didn't realize, I thought we were on a different
Okay.
department. Let me look and see if I have questions.
I've already forgotten. Okay, we have a motion by who? Me. Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Okay, next is the fire department. The overview of just $48.7 million. We have an increase of $1 million, or 2%. We have no new FTEs in that division of the department. And I'll go through each slide.
Jennifer, can you
Still go
bend
closer?
it down so you're talking?
Oh.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, let me get a little
shy.
friendlier to this guy. Hello, guy. No, I'm kidding. All right, so sorry. So I'm going to move on to the emergency management division, which is $251,000. It's a decrease of $44,959. No new FTEs or new notable change. You have the nuclear planning division, which is $201,000, an increase of roughly $10,000, no notable change. Then we have the fire rescue communication, which is $1.2 million, increase of $41,000, no notable change. They have ocean rescue, that's requesting $1.7 million, a $62,000 increase, no notable change, that's probably salaries. And then we have fire prevention, which is $510,000, an increase of $17,000, no notable change. We have the fire rescue administration, which is $1.1 million, an increase of $186,000, no notable change. Then you have fire operations, which is $40 million, an increase of $700,000. And the increase is mainly because of medical supplies. We have additional revenues for transport. We have Medicaid reimbursements. And then we have an increase of $2.5 million.
And I really would like to commend the department, particularly Mr. Resch, for really being on top of these revenues. We would need much more ad valorem increase if it were not for being able to offset the ad valorem with the increased revenues from transports particularly, and that Medicaid reimbursement program that he initiated. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for the sentiment.
Okay. All right, then you have the fleet services of fire and rescue department, which is $781,000, an increase of $10,000. There's no notable change. And fire rescue special ops, which is $2.7 million, $53,000 increase. It's for the area medical services annual increase per agreement.
That's the last one.
Then that's the last one.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, under fleet services and logistics, there are 7 employees, and in general services, in vehicle and equipment repair, there are also 7 employees. I'm assuming that the general services has a whole lot bigger fleet. So how many vehicles do you repair?
I can't speak to how many general services has, but we maintain over 50 pieces of apparatus.
Anybody have any idea how many general
General
services?
Services, they'll be here. They can answer that question when their department is being reviewed.
Okay, well, I'll ask that question. You
They're
have
next.
how
But
many?
that also includes our 2 logistics people, and I don't know what their budget includes.
Don't you
Yeah.
also maintain the city of Stewart's vehicles as well?
That is correct.
Is that included in the 50?
No, it's not.
And also Jupiter Island.
Sarah Woods, County Attorney, I do want to point out that the City of Stewart and the Town of Jupiter Island reimburse us for our costs, the taxpayers of Martin County. It's done through a reimbursement agreement.
Right, I was just talking about the physical repairing of vehicles.
Yes, sir.
Move tentative approval.
Second.
Okay, any other questions? We have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is the General Services Department. The total budget is roughly $10 million. There's an overall difference from the previous year's budget of $397,000. The notable increases will be shown throughout the departments. We are seeing where in 20, they had 51 employees. There is an increase of another 2.5 employees. So in the administration area, there's a budget of $821,000, an increase of $61,000. We have armed security. The notable change is the armed security office for coverage for admin guards, and the courthouse for the 3:30 shift. So that's the increase. The countywide building repair and maintenance is $4.2 million, an increase of $64,000. They added the HVAC tech for preventative maintenance scheduling. They moved a PA from the
Property appraiser.
moved from property appraiser space to own space, and they have janitorial, carpet cleaning, and so forth for 5 days versus 3 days, and they have exotic landscape removal. For general services, sheriff office building repairs and maintenance, it's a $2.1 million. It's an increase of $121,000, and those they increased with 1 FTE. And the notable change is convert the electric system tech, and this is one of the conversions we talked about for maintenance and security systems. And then they have a general janitorial carpet tile cleaning from 5 to 3 days, from 5 days versus 3 days, and the landscape. I guess they had it repetitive here. Okay. And then you have the general services vehicle and equipment repairs. It's $1.1 million, a small increase of $9,000 and no notable change. The light vehicle replacement division is $780,000, an increase of $122,000. And their increases schedule is for replacement of equipment per county policy. Then you have the courthouse complex and court holding and constitutional officers building, and that's a $752,000 budget, increase of $19,000, no notable change.
That's it.
Any questions regarding general services?
I do.
I'm sorry, I can't see.
There are 8 employees to do the light vehicle replacement and vehicle and equipment repairs. How many vehicles do these people serve?
We have just under 300 vehicles and 800 pieces of equipment, including lawn mowers and all golf carts and all types of others.
Thank you.
Move tentative approval.
Second.
Okay, we may have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Hurd, could you move your light to the corner so I can?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and next appointment is the Information Technology Services, total budget of $3.8 million, an increase of $208,000, no new FTEs in this. The Information Technology Administration is $280,000, and the increase is $12,000, no notable change. The Application Management Services is $1.2 million. It's a $57,000 increase, no notable change. We have Technical Management Services, which is $1.2 million, has an increase of $39,000, no notable change. There's a Communication Services, which is $649,000, an increase of $35,000, no notable change. Project Management Services, $490,000, an increase of $64,000, no notable change. Technology Investment Overview, so we went from TIP to, we need to vote on this one.
Yeah, that's the end of the
Yes.
department.
This is the end of Information Services, the administration. Any questions on that one?
Move approval.
They both moved. Okay, you'll be second. Okay, we have any questions? We have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Now, this is an overview of the Technology Improvement Plan. The total budget is $7.8 million. It's a $110,000 increase. They had a movement to mobile workforce. That's part of the increase. The items under initial warranty are now on paid warranty, and then they had subscriptions and service anticipated increases.
That's it.
That's it.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Next is the library, and the total budget is $4.3 million. It's an increase of $184,000. No new FTEs, and I will go down to see notable changes. The library administration is $363,000. There's an increase of $32,000 with no notable change. Public services is $3.9 million, an increase of $152,000. That's due to the contractual services and the library book publications.
That's it. That's it.
Motion. Second.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion by Commissioner Campy, seconded by Commissioner Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Next is Park and Recreation Department, which is $12.4 million, an increase of $347,000. We have 82 employees. The administration portion of Parks and Rec is $453,000, an increase of $33,000 with no notable change. Parks operation is $5.9 million, a $218 increase, no notable change. We have Inner Riverside Park, which is $660,000, a $23,000 increase, no notable change. Here, Parks, Recreation Program, which is $1.2 million, which is a $30,000 increase, no notable change. There's recreation grants of $444,000 with an increase of $39,000 with no notable change. Cooperative Extension Services is $240,000, no increases, no new changes. We have Phipps Park, which represents $220,000, a $18,000 increase, no change. Sailfish Splash Water Park, $1.4 million, a $1,400 increase, no notable change. Golf course operation is $1.9 million, a negative $14,000, and they have 0.1 less employee.
That's it.
That's it.
Move Parks and Rec. Tentatively.
Commissioner Hurd.
Yes, I'm on page 290 under park operations, and I see that the South Central MSTU is to be funded, is to be used to fund Twin Rivers Park janitorial service and also Peck Lake maintenance. I think when I made those commitments, the park budget was less than half that it is now. It's now $12.5 million, and I feel that you probably have enough money to cover the expenses of those maintenances now, don't you?
Kevin Abate, Parks Director. We've used those funds successfully at the park to help offset our costs, so we'd have to look into it. I don't want to reduce any services for restroom cleaning, but it's always been a part of the budget in my 10 years. So if we don't want it to consider it, we certainly, at the board's pleasure, could adjust the numbers.
What is that budget? What is that contribution that the District 4 is making?
Stephanie's looking into it. I don't have it
And
specifically.
Peck Lake was longer ago than 10 years ago.
It's not a lot.
There's a microphone there.
Less than 20,000 annually?
2089 and 2088. Activity. Sorry, I'm looking at you.
This is the big quiz, Stephanie.
Come on, Wonder Girl.
I do. So, I'm on page 292, which is Indian Riverside Park. What's the funding source for those expenditures?
Well, Indian Riverside Park uses the revenue that comes in from rentals and fees, and then there is a subsidy that carries the rest of the operating budget.
And what is that subsidy? Do you know that?
It's usually general fund dollars.
Pardon me?
General fund dollars.
Yeah. You know what that subsidy is?
I'm looking.
It's $660,000.
We're looking it up, Commissioner.
And Sailfish Splash is budgeted for just under $1.4 million with an appropriation from the general fund of approximately $188,000. Given the shrunken and shrinking revenues, how realistic is this number?
I think it's weather dependent, so, and obviously pandemic dependent. So for us, it's just really looking at having good weather days. We always have made our revenue when we have normalized weather days without any real fluctuation of weather. So it's pretty realistic. But we have had some increased costs through the year normally, but we're able to raise our fees to balance that.
And golf course operations, the golf course has been closed. The golf course will continue to be closed. So how is that reflected in the golf course operations of $1.9 million?
Well, we kept the budget the same as this previous year. Our goal is that in October, looks like the new course, I'm touring all the commissioners and county administration over the next couple of weeks. The new course should be ready to go sometime in the fall, and we'll begin to replay. So hopefully just after the budget year starts, we'll be able to see how the new golf course performs with the new reversible 9. So we kept those dollars the same. We anticipate the cost might actually go down. Our goal overall with the new course is to shrink the subsidy. That's the goal.
And Commissioner Hurt, hang on. The Parks Endowment Fund, the budget's $12,820. That's being contributed to the Parks budget for Peck Lake.
That's for Peck Lake?
Peck Lake and Twin Rivers, $12,820.
Can you tell what year I made the commitment to Peck Lake?
I'll have to look back, but I know it's been quite a few years. I'll start
It's,
with that.
it's, I remember making a 10-year commitment, and I think that it's been longer than 10 years.
And you should have a decent balance still, right? I think she has.
Yes.
Yeah, just to look at larger.
I've been here for just about 10 years, and it was here when I got here.
Yeah. I just don't want to continue to use District 4 dollars that I didn't commit to. I committed to 10 years, not for forever. At some point, those become the responsibility of the countywide taxpayers.
Okay. Any other questions? We have a motion, because I wrote it down, by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Okay, our next budget is for Public Works Department, and it's $19.3 million. There's an $845,000 increase. We are seeing an additional 2 FTE being requested. Administration for Public Works is $449,000. Is a decrease of $10,000.
Ms. Manning, I'm sorry. Can you back up to the first slide? Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, so moving to traffic engineer, it is $2.6 million, an increase of $88,000. And this is from an add-in and a sign technician to support the house pavement marking program.
This is one that Commissioner Heatherington has an interest in.
Okay.
Commissioner, you want to comment
Questions
now?
now, or do you want to finish?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
What is the in-house sign technician, and what does that person do?
So the budget, as Jim Gordon, Public Works Director, for the record, the budget as stated in the book includes a sign technician. Sign technicians, we have 2 for the entire county. So there's 1 technician per 250 miles of roadway. The industry standard is closer to 100 miles of roadway, so we proposed the addition of a sign technician, which is what you see as a 19 FTEs. The alternative to that, we had a discussion with the board about changing the way we do our striping program. If we went that route, we would create an in-house pavement marking program where we'd have 2 FTEs. One would be paid out of the budget, just like it's shown. The other one would be paid out of the CIP program, and they would manage the small to moderate scale striping. Right now, 100% of that work is done through contracted services, and in the past, we weren't getting the smaller jobs done in a timely manner.
So that's separate from the sign technician?
That is, well, we would use the in-house pavement marking program. They could also do some sign maintenance, because they wouldn't be doing that on rainy days and things like that, so they would supplement our sign program.
What do we estimate if we were to bring somebody on that it would cost us per linear foot to do in-house striping?
Our cost would be more expensive than a striping contractor because of those small projects, the ones that the contractors don't really want to do. Those larger, a large company doesn't want to come out and paint. I know we had a hard time getting the speed limits painted on St. Lucie Boulevard just because the volume of work wasn't really enough for that contractor to send a crew in. So our cost would be more.
Do we know how
But we'd be
much-
more
how much
responsive.
per linear foot?
I don't have that information in front of me, no, but I can provide it to you.
And we would need a person, and then that person would need training, I assume.
That person would need
And do
training.
we have the equipment?
No,
necessary?
part of the number that we came up with includes the capital purchase of the equipment that we would need as well. So there's an investment of $250,000 in equipment, vehicles. So, like I said, the way we've proposed it, the way it's in the budget, it's a sign technician, has nothing to do with an in-house pavement marking crew. That's just a alternative suggestion, because you guys had asked us to come back with a suggestion.
Okay, so just one more time for clarity. So it would be 19, you still need the sign technician, even if there was no in-house striping crew, the 20?
We
is
do
for
need we need the
additional-
sign technician, just to be able to service the signs the way they need to be done.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of bringing more people in. I think that we had discussed trying to look at the contract and seeing if we could rework the contract so that we could get, even if we had to pay a little bit more per linear foot and a smaller contract, to get different bidders in versus the large contracts. Because now we're looking at, we need a full-time person, we have to train the person, we need equipment, and we're taking that work out of the private sector, which I definitely, and we don't know how much it's going to cost us per linear foot, and I do believe it'll be more expensive. So I would want to see that full-time person go away, and then us look again at how we can do a purchasing contract that would be beneficial for smaller contractors to do our striping.
Okay, I can tell you that, so we've transitioned that program out of our capital program and into our traffic division, and in the last 3 months, we've changed the way we approach those striping projects, and we have had better response from the contractors. So
you're bundling them?
what we're doing is
smaller with-
exactly, we're bundling the small projects together, kind of on a neighborhood regional area, and then we're bidding them out that way, and we're getting a much better response.
I've been struggling with this for 4 years with Lisa, and, it got to the point, if you have a couple of stop bars in a neighborhood that needs to be, that are worn down, we got zero response from any contractor to come out and do two stop bars and there's amazing amount of need for that. So that's kind of
There is,
where
and there,
this-
Commissioner Jenkins, there are contractors that will do it, and I've talked to many of them, and it's the way the purchasing contract, the way the procurement is the reason they won't respond to these contracts. And I thought that's what we had, the direction we had asked is to look at procurement to see how we could get those contractors. I don't like taking work out of the private sector.
I agree.
And bringing it in-house. Now we're paying more per linear foot, and now we have more full-time employees. I'm completely opposed to that.
Commissioner Campy.
Thank you. That's, I guess, why there's 5 of us. I look at it differently than that. I guess maybe since I have a longer history and the frustration that my constituents have with those issues. To me, it's a safety issue. As Commissioner Jenkins mentioned, the fading or complete deterioration of a stop line or the proper striping for a pedestrian crosswalk, when those lines are not there, and I appreciate staff being reactive to our request. It wasn't less than 6 months ago. Bless you, it was less than 6 months ago that we were requesting this. I think you might see a little bit of an increase in interest from the private sector contractors, because obviously the market is different and projects are different. So to have someone in-house, which is what we, at least I know I was advocating for you to bring that person in, because it is frustrating to hear and it's not an excuse from our staff, because no one did that work. And when you submitted the work, whether the bids, I believe the bids were probably put out effectively and efficiently, and for people not to take the work, doesn't solve the problem or the need. I know that in Palm City, we've had plenty of areas that need this. It's not just to come around and fix the problem spots. You have, hundreds and hundreds of square miles of markings all throughout the county, and even if one person is more aware of a crosswalk or a stop line at a stop sign, because it is bright and reflective and done and appropriate and maintained appropriately, and we save the potential of a catastrophic accident or fatality, worth it. We bring in additional FTEs for different departments for different reasons all the time. I think this one, in my mind, and I completely understand what my colleague is saying, I'm not interested in taking business away from the private sector necessarily either, but I'm pretty sure you have a history of several years' worth of trying to bid these smaller projects and having contractors not interested. Everyone wants the big projects, but it's these small projects that in my mind, are a safety issue and very, very important. So I'm in favor of it.
Commissioner Smith. I think Commissioner Hurd.
Yeah, I'm under ecosystem restoration and management, $60,000 for public education and outreach programs, including the Bee Floridian Now and Water Ambassadors. You know what those are?
Yeah, the Water Ambassadors is a program that we put on where we train the public on water quality issues and ways that they can make a difference to the water quality in the county. It's a reoccurring training program that we had been putting it on at the fairgrounds. Now it's a WebEx-based program, but residents can sign up, take the course, and it's a intensive training on water quality and things that, you know, the citizens can do and be on the lookout for. Bee Floridian Now is more of a statewide water quality advocacy program. It's used through social media and just speaks to, you know, larger regional water quality issues.
And also, while Ms. Wixer is here, if she could come forward, I've requested to initiate my district MSTU for the first time in very many years, and it's because I have a specific project in mind. The capacity improvements are desperately needed at the intersection of Canner and Cove Road, and those improvements are not going to be made until 2025, I think. And I thought that the people would melt down long before that at that intersection because they're melting down now. So I asked Ms. Wixer to investigate making those improvements at that intersection now. And you know how it is when we ask FDOT for anything, we usually get no for an answer. But this time, we did not. We got very, very good news. If you could explain the good news that we got.
Yeah, Lisa Wixer, I'm the county engineer. We asked the Florida Department of Transportation whether or not we could make adjustments to the traffic signal without moving the traffic signal by adding a head and reconfiguring the heads on the traffic signal, as well as building a left turn lane in the median and doing that work as a permit out of the Fort Pierce office rather than the Fort Lauderdale office. And they agreed to both of those things, which substantially cuts down on the amount of time and the cost associated with the improvement.
So we think that we think that we can permit it. We think that we can construct it in this fiscal year.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking to increase or to initiate once again my MSTU. I think that'll be a terrific investment. Thanks.
It's your question with regard to traffic engineering, please.
It was actually back to striping.
Oh.
Can I go there or no?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So Taryn and,
Sir.
and maybe Jim, just a question to Stacy's point and to Ed's point on the striping discussion. So does it really come down to that the larger contractors only want to do the larger footprint size striping contracts? And
Yep.
is the question on the smaller folks that Stacy's talking about, or whoever she may be alluding to, is it that because it's complex doing bidding with us, meaning because of the requirements that we have with the state and whatnot on bidding, does that knock out people that would otherwise, if it was just someone bidding on work, do we run into the problem because they don't want to have to go through our requirements, whatever the bonding requirements, insurance requirements are, And I only ask that as a starting point for the conversation because maybe there's still another way to get there. And so is that what you find? Is that the typical response that we get?
So on that contract, we rebid that contract about 3 months ago, and we put together a contract that had the normal large-scale projects, and then it also had the smaller projects, and we anticipated that we'd get quotes in at a premium to do that work at a smaller scale. We only had one respondent, which was really the incumbent. So there might be some merit to what you're saying, is that we may be, the folks that do parking lot striping and some of the smaller scale things like small subdivisions, they're not bidding on that contract. We're getting, the large firms.
So
for whatever reason.
So I'm just curious, is there a way, Taryn, or purchasing, whatever, is there a way to add on, or not add on, but when we rebuild another type of contract to add in striping that might be someone who does workforce that typically, or not typically, that does not do striping for us, but they would be inclined to add that into their menu of things like, let's say they do sidewalk work for us, they do curbing work for us, they do drainage maintenance work. But because we haven't asked them to and because it hasn't been an option, if you want to, in the menu, can we look at broadening that menu to include something that another company that certainly could do it, but doesn't do it because it's not in their menu, if you will?
Well, if they have the equipment, Commissioner, I think, that they would have to decide whether or not they want to make that capital investment.
Well, but typically, and I'm thinking about a specific company that we do a lot of work with. Through the years, that company has added on a whole slew of different types of things that they do for us. That I remember 15 plus years ago, they didn't do that kind of work. And so as they became more proficient in their bidding and the types of work they were doing for us, if they knew, for instance, on curb work, and I remember when they bought their curbing equipment, that was a hefty purchase. But if they knew long-term that they were going to be in the business of now doing curb work when they did work for us, that investment wouldn't be such a bad idea. Same thing with the striping equipment. If it was something that, if we were out there talking to our various vendors that we work with, saying, look, you don't do striping for us today, but we need multiple vendors in the striping world. Is that something you would be interested in doing? And if so, next time we bid this package out of stuff, we'll include that in that package. Just a thought.
So
If I can just make a quick comment, Don Donaldson, Deputy County Administrator. I think doing some more small business outreach, I think is something that we could work with our purchasing department on, which is, I think, a theme of what you're talking about. In particular, the striping contract, one of the challenges you have with a small contractor, the difference between a parking lot and a roadway is we require all these crash attenuators and very complicated traffic management. And so that transition to that is probably one of the biggest impediments you have for these small people. I think what staff did in their proposal, and I was expecting when this first came up to have a much larger staff impact, and what they did is really bring to you a hybrid program. We were still embedded in a highly contracted arena, but bringing on just enough people to do smaller projects. We use crash attenuators on our other projects and have other, whether between street sweeping and all of our other items, so they can shift it occasionally to do the striping. So I think when you look at it as a project, they're only looking at adding staff to do some of the smaller projects, the ad hoc, to be able to respond quickly. When you try to get these smaller contractors to be able to do the same thing, you're almost looking to have them the same contribution. They're a big paving contractor, but they can free up some of this equipment when you need it for small jobs, and right now their response is they just aren't able to do it. So that was sort of our challenge. I think staff, in my opinion, came back with a really pared down ask, which was just add a couple of staff and the equipment, and we'll flex it within our additional program, or they'll just continue to contract it out, which they've, again, looked at a new contract They moved how they were managing the contract to try to bundle it, but we still may be occasionally in these situations where you have a small project that just has to wait.
So
Commissioner
how
Heatherington.
much per linear foot is that costing us to do in-house with the personnel, the equipment, the training?
And they could bring that back to you. They don't have those numbers now. They really just did it based upon what was the smallest size crew we could do for small projects and still bundle the larger projects together as they could. When you're doing a whole neighborhood project, you're still using contracted services. But if you have small projects, and perhaps even some of our own small projects like in parks, they could flex in that. They were looking at that as well. This is to try to maximize how you would use a in-house striping crew for really just the smaller projects.
I would like to pull this one out so that we could come back and look at, it might be very well a great idea, that we can look at how we do this, how much it's going to cost us, as well as some of the procurement options. Commissioner Smith, I think you're right. We might be able to add some of those into our continuing services contract in certain ways. So could we pull that out and this come back
Yeah,
the next
this
round?
proposal did not affect your tentative millage at all. It only affected the number of FTEs, and if it were approved, it would require a minor adjustment to the capital budget. So this could be addressed at a future item or even for next year as an adjustment.
All I got to say is I've been waiting on one project for 3 years and I haven't gotten anywhere, and now I've got actually one that the stop bars in Zeus Park. Lisa and I are working on a situation where the railroad put a fixture in and we need to restripe it to make the intersection safe. We've been having this conversation for 3 months. Were it something, if we could do in-house, we could have had it done by now. Commissioner Camping.
Thank you. To acknowledge and respect Commissioner Hetherington's concern over this specific item, so I will make a motion for this specific issue that we move forward with it, separate from the rest of the budget, that I'm making a motion that we approve the in-house striping option going forward.
Second.
Oh, well, if you're going to be the second, then I don't have to pull it out.
I don't know.
You're pulling it out, correct?
No.
No, I meant I'm pulling it out so that I can approve it.
Leaving it in.
He's
So that
approving
you
it.
You're
don't have-
leaving it in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I retract.
Commissioner
that.
I was going to say, if you're the
I
second.
thought you said you were pulling it in, out.
No, I believe that they've gone, and I understand your concern, but I believe that they have gone far enough, and especially what we just heard from Mr. Donaldson, that I personally feel comfortable that they have done the review, understanding private versus public, large contracts versus smaller contracts. To Commissioner Jenkins' point, not only will this correct the glaring issues that we have around the county, in my mind, I see this person being able to then go around and proactively address the ones that aren't terrible, but are poor. And I think that this would be a great situation. I am as passionate on this one simply because there was a crosswalk where children would cross in Palm City, very close to my house, as a matter of fact. The stripes of the crosswalk were completely gone. The signs, people start to just get so used to seeing the signs and the image of the people walking, the crosswalk indicators. But since there was no obvious, bright, vivid striping on the street, everyone raced right through. I've seen people, moms and dads and kids, standing at the side of the road waiting to cross a crosswalk, and the cars just blowing right through and to the drivers, I give them a little bit of leeway because of the fact that there's no striping on the street anymore. So that's why I think it's very important that we do it.
Commissioner Smith.
I'm not sure I understood the motion, so I'll make a substitute motion that we leave the funding and the strategy as it is, but that when we come back for adoption, for final adoption of the budget, that we flag the item, and that will give staff plenty of time to address the concerns and discussions that we've had, so that the money is there in our tentative approval.
Actually reasonable.
But if you don't like it when it comes back, you can vote against it. But if we don't put it in now, then it's like you're gonna have to claw money from someplace else to put it back in. So it just will hold as a holding point. I mean, that would be my motion, that we tentatively approve this, but flag that discussion so that staff can have time to come back and give us options as to what they would recommend that address both.
I withdraw my motion.
I would do it for, my approval would be for all public works, but for that issue specific in the motion, Mary Kay, that we highlight this discussion so that in September when we come back for adoption, staff can come back and present us with options that address Stacy's concerns.
So that would include the FTE at 20.
Yes. And and again, Don, if at that time, if you all come back and present and give us options and the board says, we don't like it, we want to go outhouse, we want to go outside, we can pull it out at that point, but at least the money as a placeholder was there versus trying to figure out how to put it back in if we didn't like something in September.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense, Stacy?
Is that reasonable?
Yeah, I can live with that, leaving it in now, but I do think that taking work out of the private sector,
I don't-
even when we don't know how much it's going to cost us, even, I highly disagree with. So I hope that we can also look at our procurement and see if there's some ways that we can perhaps get some increased response there. Thank you.
I don't disagree with what you've just said, but just the historic of what we've gone through trying to get here. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner... No, he did the whole thing.
No, but his motion, as I understood it, was to approve the department less this striping issue. Leave the money in there, leave the FTE in there at 20.
Bring it back.
That will come back, but the rest of the department he was approving.
He approved the whole thing, which I understand, but you're not done showing the slides yet, correct?
Right, I think there's a few more, but I mean, there was, okay.
You want to see the, yeah, I
you
think the
want to take-
public that are following at home would like to see the rest of the slides.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Bundling,
He was bundling and trying...
accelerating and
So-
bundling. Sorry.
So what are we doing? You want to take a vote on that?
No, we're
Finishing
going to
the
look at a few
Continue.
more slides.
Okay, I tell you what, we need to stop. I'm getting the thing over there that we need to take a break for 10 minutes for our closed captioning, so we'll be back in 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
You are muted.
Oh, we almost made it.
Welcome back. We're now moving on to public planning, MPO.
We didn't finish this one.
No.
We did. Did we?
Works.
Okay, are we ready?
There was more than
Yeah.
traffic. There's more sections.
Yeah, we're doing the rest of the division.
Yeah, MPO.
I made my motion prematurely. They wanted to see the other screens.
Right.
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay. All right, so we have Public Works Transportation Planning, the MPO, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization. Total budget $394,000, a decrease of $52,000. There are no FTE changes. The transit portion of Public Works is total budget of $1.3 million, a decrease of $60,000. An increase in 1 FTEs. They need an equivalent for Veterans Transit Services.
Decrease, none.
Sorry, decrease. Oops. Decrease of $60,000 and,
Decrease of 1 employee, FTE.
yes, and 1, okay. I'm transposing things at this point. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, next department division is surveying. The budget is $759 million, an increase of...
Jeez.
759,000. Are you getting?
No, you guys are getting funny. I'm sorry. Okay. $759,000 and an increase of $22,000 and no FTE changes. It's a mask. You know what happens, right? Capital projects is $819,000 and an increase of $40,000 and no significant changes. Ecosystem restoration management is $1.1 million and an increase of $295,000, no FTE changes. They are establishing a water quality monitoring program and they are requesting equipment purchases. Development review is $991,000, an increase of $44,000 with no significant changes. Stormwater area has a budget of roughly $3 million, an increase of $87,000 with no significant changes. Field operations is $5.4 million, an increase of $189,000, and they are adding one position, and I don't see a position change, but a horticulturist.
Yeah, that should be showing an additional position. Let's
Yes.
move somebody around.
No, we have a position that we shifted over to ecosystems mid-year, so it's a
Okay, it's a wash.
wash.
Okay. Mosquito control, a total budget of $1.5 million, an increase of $63,000, no significant changes. Coastal engineering, $380,000, an increase of $12,000. Is this the last slide, I think? Okay.
Nope.
Real property is $420,000, an increase of $9,000.
There's one more.
And transit services is $123,000, no increase in the budget. They're showing 1 FTEs. It's at the new division, no, I'm just saying, it's a new division spawned from Administration Veteran Services. They wanted 1 FTE.
They moved one from transit.
And that's it, right?
Any questions? You want to restate your motion again?
No.
Mayor Kay, you got the motion? Okay.
It was to approve the Public Works Department budget tentative approval with the note that come September, we will talk about striping and staff will come back with options and further discussion, but to leave that in at this point so that we are funded, should we agree all to move forward the way it's been presented.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Before I leave, there was a question about capital projects and the reductions in the capital projects budget. If I could just have a moment to explain the part that I know. There's really 2 things going on. When we were looking at reductions to ad valorem, we deferred some projects. Those projects were in our ecosystems development program. It was about $400,000 worth of projects. They're mostly access-related projects. We discussed them during the CIP presentation, but Hawks Hammock access, it was going to move the parking lot from the end of Markle Street, which is a private road, over to Green Farms Way. Another one is a stand-up paddleboard access on Hutchinson Island. And then the Stewart Impoundment hydrologic restoration. And then there's a water quality project, the Southwest Prong, that we were going to defer that project as well. We have problems getting the property on that one, so deferring it will allow us more time to work out a deal with the landowner. So those are that's that money. And then the other side of it that was in the earlier presentation related to changing the funding from ad valorem to franchise fee. So the franchise fee was, we conservatively estimated what it would be, and it turns out that there was, about $1 million more available to us in franchise fee. So we just substituted the ad valorem with franchise fee. Those projects are still going. They're still on the same schedule. They're just funded slightly differently with money that we realized when the franchise fee was recalculated.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, moving along to Utilities and Solid Waste Department. Total budget of $47.3 million. There's an increase of $1.1 million. They're requesting eight FTEs, of which 3 are conversion from contracted positions. The Utilities Administration is $3.4 million, an increase of $129,000. And the notable increase, there are additional project manager to assist with the septic to sewer program. There is an increase for additional vehicle for the project manager. Solid waste facilities budget is $23.8 million. They're increasing by $721,000. They're adding a small portion of an FTE, and it's an increase of additional .30 FTE mechanic position to repair heavy equipment, and the position is split among various divisions. And they also have an increase in the processing of a disposal of C&D for the projected increase in volume. Pump out boat is a budget of $168 million, an increase of $62,000. Oh, sorry, 62.
168,000.
Yeah.
And they're rounding. Okay, they're increasing one FTE, and it's for the lead pump out boat operator grant, and it's funded through grant funds.
So if we don't get the grant, obviously we will not have the position.
Okay, technical services, the total budget is $1.4 million, an increase of $15,000. They have 11.7 FTEs. Customer service is $1.4 million, an increase of $136,000. And they are requesting 1 additional FTE for customer service due to the septic to sewer program and water assessments. Utilities maintenance is $7.8 million, an increase of $52,000. They're increasing by FTEs, conversion of 3 long-term contractual labor positions to full-time utility service workers. They're increasing a .70 FTE mechanic to repair heavy equipment, and they're also increasing a 1 utilities mechanic for the AirVac building. The treatment operations is $8.5 million, a decrease of $44,000, no additional FTEs. A notable item, they decreased the change in the method of sludge handling and biosolids and disposal. The renewal and replacement program is $668,000, a decrease of $71,000, no other change. And they're saying the decrease is needed of furniture of the office. Prior year was budgeted in a new office space. Utilities, water, and sewer assessment improvements is $100,000, an increase of $100,000. And they're saying the legal and court costs of validation of water assessments requested by the county attorney for assessment projects. And it's not requested by the county attorney, it is required for all their assessments. And that is utilities and solid waste. Any questions?
With regard to solid waste?
Move tentative approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
Okay, next is non-departmental. And, you know, there's always a question, what is non-departmental? It's all revenues and expenditures that are not directly related to a specific department. And within the non-departmental divisions, you have non-department program, you have the risk management, economic development, grants and aid, debt service, budgeted transfers, and reserves. So the total non-departmental budget is $172 million, of which 21.8 million is the non-departmental program. The risk management is 30 million. We have 450,000 for economic development. Grants and aid represents $5.9 million. You have budgeted transfers of 33.5 million, and then you have reserves of 7.4 million. This is hard to see. Next time we'll change it. Okay. As I mentioned, non-departmental program is 21.8 million. And within non-departmental, you have the indirect costs. We have the parks maintenance that's transferred to the general fund from the Parks and Recreation that's related to the costs. You have the wellness clinic. You also have property insurance. We have audited and contractual services. We have professional services. And we also have rental and leases. And we have other miscellaneous like printing and binding, training, and publications. We also have our PTO paid leaves included in this area, and then we have the Beau Rivage and the FP&L grant. So the other areas of non-departmental I mentioned is risk management, because we have our self-insurance. We have economic development, it's monies that are being allocated to the Business Development Board on approved contract. And that's funded from business taxes and general fund. And then we have the grants and aid program, which has a contracted services, as well as the grants that are going to the agencies. We have grants of private organizations and other grants, like the Doris Schlossberg. The debt service is just established based on the county approving our debt. And our transfers is just a movement of funds from one to another. So there are times when we have to transfer from, impact fees to a debt service fund, or transfer money to allocate for insurance and so forth. Our reserves, I presented that earlier. It's the same. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Commissioner Hurd.
I'm on page 273, under accounts of interest 03100. What's the cost allocation study for $17,000?
Okay, we're required that every 2 years we have to do an indirect cost allocation study, and it'll be the second year coming up in '21, because we did one 2 years ago.
Okay. And the $60,000 to PACE?
That PACE program, I think it was presented, Don can elaborate a little bit more on the PACE
I don't know
program.
why we pay them $60,000.
That's, Commissioners, we approved, you have the PACE providers, and then we have Solar Energy Loan Fund that helps us administrate a program with them, and we also pay them for the auditing, since we didn't hire any staff to do any auditing for what the PACE providers are doing. So part of that is that auditing services, and we can provide you that contract if you'd like to see it, but that was what we approved with the board when we hired Self And also, we asked them to go look for funds to help us with our septic to sewer program, which we have an agenda item that will be coming back to you in the coming month or so to assist with that program. So it was part of that collective services that we hired. Doesn't go to the PACE providers, it goes to SELF, and SELF is not a PACE provider. So it's part of the auditing services that we asked them to perform for us.
Okay, I thought that the PACE program was a direct interaction between the residents and PACE.
It is. So if you go to a PACE provider and you get some upgrades to your home, you're going to have a contract with them to provide that, and then they'll put it on a non-ad valorem tax bill onto your assessment. The county incorporated several additional rules relating to how those PACE providers are to perform that's over and above what other entities are providing. And one of the questions is how do you know that they are providing the service to these residents in accordance with the county's rules? And that's what SELF is helping to do. So it's really, it may say PACE there, but this is directly a contract to SELF to audit PACE providers.
Okay, so by that, we'll understand whether or not citizens are taking advantage of the program and whether it's successful or not.
That's correct. And some of the
Okay.
things that we're really interested in are they making sure that they're not taking out loans that they can't afford, and that the services that are being provided are in keeping with what they were asked to do.
Okay. And the accounts of interest is 3,400. Public relations consultants for the Office of Communications for $50,000. What's that?
That's, we went out for an RFP so that when we have a need for additional communications, we have an outside consultant that can assist us. Sometimes we get, staff gets stretched pretty thin relative to communications, and so we want to be able to utilize consultants to help us when we need it.
And the county road remediation plan for $47,000, what's that?
Where are you? Oh, at the end.
3,400, yeah.
It's a contamination program that's been around, and we're budgeted in the non-departmental because it doesn't belong anywhere else, departmental-wise. So
That's probably not a good description. That's
Right.
a site that the road department used to utilize, and right now Parks is on that site. It's on the corner of Indian and Dixie. For those that, I don't know if you remember, way back in the day, that was the road field operations program, and we had some contamination there. We used to have fuel tanks on that site, so we have to continue to remediate that parcel.
Okay. And why do we pay the Palomar Water Control District and Hobe St. Lucie Water Control District fees? That's in 4,900?
Yeah, I see that.
I don't know who can answer that question, maybe.
You got 4,000 for Palomar and...
We've been paying it for a while. I don't know who can answer, maybe, I don't know, Don, maybe?
Stephanie, do you have any detail on that?
It is something that, a membership, I believe, that we are in, and we've been paying it for a while, so it just continues to roll with the budget, but I don't know exact details.
Yeah, I don't know any information on that.
But we can get that. We can pull because that's an ongoing expenditure.
Pull the invoice, yeah.
Yeah.
And 4,900 Parks MSTU maintenance payments of $1.7 million? What's that?
Yeah, those individuals that are working in the Parks and Recreation area that is unincorporated in the MSTU, they're all housed in the general fund. So we have to transfer the money that's related to their costs of maintaining the parks.
That's so that we don't have to split their payroll. Essentially, it's an accounting mechanism. So for all the parks that we maintain, there's a certain portion that is unincorporated area. And so the Parks Department has a percentage that they use. And based on that percentage, we do a transfer out of the MSTUs and into the general fund to offset their payroll, because their payroll is paid completely out of the general fund.
Okay. Let's see. 8,100 FPL tangible personal property grant is 2.25 million. What was it last year?
Ooh, let me see, I think it was like 1.9.
Yeah, I was going to say almost 2
Somewhere
million.
around there. I don't have it right,
They have increased their inventory. They're up to over 600 million
Yeah.
in inventory, the last number we got. So that number, and then that
Yeah, they
number
were at
will increase.
482, so it's quite a bit that they increased.
And also, our retirement contributions are just, what control do we have over those costs?
None.
Very little. Those retirement rates are set by the state, and the increase that we saw, particularly in the drop rate, is due to a lot of individuals assessing that program. The state has to do an actuarial on their retirement funds, and they have to maintain a certain level of solvency, if you will. And based on the actuarial, then they come back and they say, okay, if we're going to have X amount of funds in our retirement system for these various buckets, this is what the rate's going to need to be by all the ratepayers. So we have no control over that. It's set at legislation. It's usually set, starts in July, July 1. They have a different calendar year than we do. So we get those during legislation is when they set it.
Thanks.
Any other questions for staff regarding? How about a motion?
Move approval.
What?
She said move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Heatherington, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
So that was our last department.
Yeah, and I just wanted to bring up the millage sheet. I'm going to reduce it a little bit.
This chart that she's pulling up is actually in your budget book. It's on page 26 of the financial summary.
And as I mentioned earlier, with the conversation with Commissioner Hurd, we reduced her MSTU request for reinstatement to $200,000. So the total ad valorem that we're requesting went down by that much. So it's a slight difference in the MSTUs, in the district section. You can see that it's now 200. Previously, in your book, it has 350.
Yeah. That's the only change.
That's the
we've
only
made.
change that I have. So I didn't know, do we need a motion on that, Taryn, or no? Okay.
Motion on just the District 4 or on the whole thing?
On the whole,
Well, the District 4 is going to require a supermajority, so I would ask that you do that first, and then you could do the total, you could break it into the 3 sections. We have countywide, the MSTUs, and then the total non-countywide.
Move approval of the District 4 MSTU?
Second.
Okay, we have motion by Commissioner Hurd, seconded by Commissioner Campy. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
That's a supermajority.
There you go.
Yes, thank you.
I put a date instead of 50.
And then you could do it however you want. If you wanted to say, the motion could be to approve the total millage for the countywide and MSTU to be the 10.2770, which is the same as the prior year. There is no increase in that total.
Can you say that one more time?
About the no increase.
The millage.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but I mean, in terms of, is that for the whole?
The 10.2770 That's your countywide at 6.7618, plus your MSTUs at 3.5152.
Okay, so so the 10.277 is what you want for motion for the entire budget?
Yes.
I'll move approval. Huh? So that includes the MSTUs and everything else, correct?
No, the MSTUs, Jen, drop down a
Below.
little bit. There, the MSTUs in total is another .606.
That's what I was asking, I'm sorry.
Eight.
So you're separating these? Which is fine, I don't care,
Either way, since you've taken a motion on Commissioner Hurd, we can add those two together. Whatever's easiest for the board. Because they're going to come back to you and you're going to have to,
okay, I'll make it simple. My motion, Mary Kay, would be for the approval of countywide, just countywide at 10.2770.
it's countywide and MSTUs.
Yes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
And then I would move the MSTU, the district MSTU millage is at .6068, is that correct?
Move your stick thing there, Jennifer. There, yeah.
Let me highlight it.
.6068.
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Heatherington. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1. Commissioner Hurd dissenting.
And I assume that that includes District 4?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I'm confused.
So that's it. So as Ms. Manning mentioned earlier, and I really appreciate the board's indulgence on this, and I really appreciate all the work that staff did on this budget. The total budget's the 491, I was looking for the total.
Okay, it's 491, 610,013. I have to look it up again. I know. I know, it just stays in my head.
If anybody has any questions or anything else comes up that you want further elaboration on, we're happy to provide it to you at any time.
Just one clarification. So we
We'll take out-
voted for District 4 MSTU,
Speak into your mic.
voted
Yeah.
for District 4 MSU, and then the last one we voted for were, they didn't have to be separated?
Correct.
Because I'm kind of confused.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hurd voted.
Against it.
For all the MSTUs, the district MSTUs only.
So
Yes.
they don't have to be considered individually? Only District 4 had to be considered individually because it was reinstated?
Yes. In order to, because of the way the forms are for the state, it would show an increase in the millage rate from last year to this year. And because of the value of that, which is going from 0 to a number, it requires a supermajority vote.
Okay.
And then the last vote included that as well.
Okay, okay. That just doesn't make sense.
I just have an observation, and that is that when I started studying this budget, I was surprised and appalled to learn that there were only expenditures and no revenues. We've always had revenues in every division, so we knew what was funding that department. And this time I had absolutely no clue what funding source was being used to fund all the expenditures. It looks to me, and without that information, this budget is useless to me because there's no accountability. It can be a game of moving chairs without knowing what the funding sources are. So Ms. Krista said that there was a new program that was used to create this. I can't believe that the new program didn't include revenue sources. There has to be a way to make this accountable because we can't tell the monies that are being used to fund the budget.
They will be in there. It's just that in order to get
Not
this
now.
Well, we did provide an additional sheet that Ms. Murley worked all day yesterday to put together that does break that down by each department. So you can see what the sources of revenues are for each department. And so this is, I mean, essentially it's the same thing. Now, the difference is that in the old budget format, in order to show the balanced budget, if you remember, there were some departments that would have a negative in their revenues that really wasn't a true negative because it was trying to balance the revenues to the expenditures. So this is what we have right now, but we will be incorporating that into the budget book as we proceed. This new program, I don't know if you want to elaborate any on it.
I mean, because it is very laborious to get all this information, because we have the way we program our revenues. We either tie it directly to a project, or we tie it, like in the general fund, it pays for so many things, and it's not just ad valorem. So you have to tie each revenue to the division, which, if you look at the department level, it's one thing, but to try to break everything out, it takes a lot of work, a lot of programming. And our extent program went out at the end of this last year, and we've been working on a new program, Stephanie and especially Kelly, both of them have been working in OpenGov to get the best information we can. Well, we need to tie that. It's going to take more man hours to actually get it done. I mean, it's easy to provide. It's not easy to provide this, because if you see how much work is entailed in it, when you look at it, it's a lot of work. Because, for example, if you're looking in admin, you have the general fund, you have sales tax, you have other people, for example, in OMB, some of my analysts work on capital projects. They get paid from capital projects. So it's a lot of detail. So we're not trying to hide anything. Everything is there. It's just a matter of, and we have a balanced budget, and we have not changed our revenue sources in quite some time. So we're not, I just want to let you know, we're not trying to hide any information. It was just how it comes out in the program. And we do have a summary sheet in the front of the book that breaks down the department expenditures by fund. And and we will try our best to get it in the format that you're looking for.
My complaint is not with you at all. It's with the program, and it's with what was presented. There were no funding source, no revenue information in the budget, and I just couldn't see working my way through a budget without knowing what the revenue sources were. It's a failure of technology. It's not a failure of yours.
Yeah, but we'll be able to roll it up by the whole department. It's harder to roll it up by
division.
By individual. It's really very hard. So,
but we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. I'm trying.
okay, and then I would like to just point out, like, the total budget will be less than 150,000 that we spoke about, so that it'll go down. So I just don't want us to see if 610 at the end and it's not. Okay.
Yep.
And I also like to thank my staff. I mean, it's been rough, and for everybody. I mean, especially with COVID, and they've managed to pull through. So I appreciate all the work that they do.
Great job.
Thanks.
Cool, and we thank you. Okay, with that, we have come to the end of our meeting.
Yep.
Our next regular meeting is next Tuesday, July 28th. August 7th and 21st is our COVID-19 update. August 11th and 25th are our regular meetings. And with that, we are adjourned.